And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at an expansion for Vikings Gone Wild. Now, I really like Vikings Gone Wild. It's a game I have in my collection. I think it's a great deck builder. And today we're taking a look at Ragnarok, a small card expansion. This comes with two decks of cards and 2 tokens. That's it. This turns Vikings Gone Wild into a cooperative game where you are fighting against the evil forces of some undead. It's an undead army, etc. And you're facing this army. So this kind of really changes. The game basically plays the same, and I'm not going to explain how to play the base game again. You should go watch my review for that if you don't know. We're just taking a look at how it now turns into a co-op game. Okay, so if we look at the board here, you'll notice that some of the cards at the bottom are gone. And at the top, you're going to have an army of bad guys. This is an army of undead. The number of cards that are in it is going to be changed depending on how many players you're going to have. You're going to reveal some of these. You're going to see some monsters. Like here's Krushenstein. You'll see he has an attack of 5. He has a defense of 5. If he manages to hit the city, he's going to do -1 per player. And so the Dark Elf is very similar to that, but the Dark Elf is easier to hit. There's also challenges. So if we went through the deck, there's all sorts of nasty creatures in here, from a Dark Bear Rider to the Dead Hall building to a Headless Rider to a Witch to undead. So there's all sorts of things in here. And the very bottom card is going to be a randomly selected boss. The bosses are bigger and nastier than everything else, and they're usually pretty much dark versions of the guards that you know and love. So you're going to be playing the game as normal, except you're not trying to get victory points. So players can still buy breweries, gold factories, gold containers, beer containers, etc., but there is no row of cards up here to buy. Instead, you can defeat these cards with attacks. So if there's a card that you can beat, you can equal or exceed its defense, you can just do that, and you defeat the card, and the card is removed from the row. You're also going to want to be buying these. You also can maybe defeat a challenge if you do whatever that challenge says. So here, every time you buy a defense card, you put a token on this, and once there are 2 tokens per player on this, then this challenge goes away. Now, at the end of every round, you're going to be looking at the track down here, and you have a undead marker that will start on 0, and every turn, this undead marker is going to be moving up. When this undead marker reaches 2, we will turn over the first Doom Horn. This Doom Horn points at his space. The second one turns over when that marker reaches 5. When these markers reach this, these cards are going to do something. They're going to attack. So the Dark Elf would attack each player with a 3 attack. It attacks your most defended building. You will have to use defensive cards to block it perhaps. If it succeeds, -1 per player. You will have another token on here that shows the points of your players, and that collectively is going to start on a location depending on how many players are in the game. So let's say a 4-player game, it starts on 20. For each player, this is going to move down. You do not want these tokens crossing each other, or you lose. So you don't even want the attacks to happen. You want to kill these creatures before they get to these spots, and so for these Doom Horns to be going off and killing things. But And by the way, when they kill things, they are then put into the discard pile. However, you at the same time need to be able to defend against them when they do get to these spots. So again, these are going to keep coming out. There are buildings, and buildings don't necessarily attack, but they'll do different things. If you beat them, sometimes you'll get extra resources. When the bad guy, the final boss, shows up, you're going to have to hit them a certain number of times. So for example, the Dark Fenrir, you will have to successfully attack 5 times. And during the Ragnarok phase, which is between after everyone has gone, he heals by 1. So you're going to have to hit him even more than 5 times. And he will hit you -1 per player every single turn. He doesn't go away like the rest of the monsters. So again, the game really just has one ending now when these 2 tokens cross. You no longer have heroes that you can get, and you no longer have the Path of Odin cards that you get. You're basically just buying Elf Archers, Bone Crusher, Pigators, Sheep Cannons, Chicken Towers, and Cannons to both attack and defend against the bad guys. And that's how you play. Okay, this is good. And that's kind of the best modifier I'm going to be able to use for that, because there's a lot of things about this I like. First of all, I like the idea of, I love Vikings Gone Wild, and turning it to a co-op game is very intriguing with me. The way they have the monsters come out and you fight them is interesting. The artwork, of course, is phenomenal, just like the original game. And it is fun to be playing this game in a co-op sort of way, where now you don't have to worry about other people attacking you and you're talking together, beating these guys off. However, it's a very, very simplistic co-op game, which again is probably good. If you want to change of pace, this is here. However, I think I don't want this change of pace too often, and I'll tell you why. One, I really like the heroes. I like having Thor on my team, or some really cool card, and those are out of this game. I also like having that Path of Odin. There's some neat cards, and I really wish there was a way to use the Path of Odin and the bad guys, because you're like, oh, here's a new way to fight the bad guys. Instead, they took away ways to really customize your deck, and now you basically have basic cards. There's also one more thing which I did not mention in the rules overview, are some of these cards are going to show up. And these cards are essentially going to give you extra things that you have to do, or you cannot win the game. So for example, this one here says each player needs to own 6 attack cards by the end of the game. And this one here says each player needs to own at least 8 buildings. Okay, so you need to be able to do both of those. And they're like extra goals that you have to do, but I don't know. They just, again, this game is super basic. I really wish the Way of Odin cards were included with this somehow, because then each game would be different. You're like, ooh, this game I'm going to try this. Here you're like, buy attack cards, buy defense cards. Oh, we better buy buildings because this is telling us to buy buildings, which means I need to upgrade the town hall, which means I need gold. I just felt like it was very, very straightforward. That being said, I didn't dislike it. So I'm giving it a positive thing, but we're like just crossing the line. I would play it, and I'll add it to my thing of Vikings Gone Wild, but the original game itself is really where it shines. I really like the back and forth. Now, maybe they'll make some sort of way to use the Odin's Ways cards and the heroes against these bad guys, or maybe there will be a cooperative game down the road that does so, and I'll be really on board with that. But while this works and it's fine, and I think some folks are going to like it, I feel like maybe it's too basic. But still, it's interesting to see what can be done with this system, and this kind of gives a glimpse, and I'm looking forward to seeing other expansions. Still, oh man, I still like Vikings Gone Wild. This expansion, though, is just okay. Dice Tower Judgment, approved, but barely.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.